Good afternoon and welcome to our webinar for ICB practices. This is hopefully you are joining us and you can actually see me. I am Amy Copeland. I'm one of the directors of ICB, and I am very pleased today to be joined by the fantastic Lucy Brown, who is now our Director of Professional Standards. Good afternoon, Lucy.
Hi, Amy. Thank you for inviting me.
Total pleasure. Thank you for being here. And we've also got the fantastic Paula V.C. Smith, who is chair of the Advisory Council and also one of ICB's members. Hello, Paula.
Good afternoon.
Now, what we're going to do just while everybody joins us, I will just bring up some slides. Now, I will, I'll share my screen, and what I will be doing is just giving you a bit of an overview of some of the resources you have access to as an ICB practice, and Lucy will be discussing some of your compliance regulations now that you're a practicing member, and then we'll hand over to Paula for some of the slightly more interesting stuff around actually running a practice and how to find clients. Now, here we go. So I will share my screen and hopefully you can see this, and I will go into presentation mode. Sorry, I do ask you please to bear with me because I've got a little bit of a husky voice today, having picked up the latest bug from my young children, but luckily it's not the kind of bug that stops them having to go to school and me having to start homeschooling. So I can't really complain too much, but yes, indeed, this is the New Practices webinar. And as I say, I'm going to be discussing some of the ICB resources before handing over to my team. Now, here's a lovely large picture of my face. As I say, I'm the Director of Communications, so my role spans the events, content, the newsletter, things like that, a little bit of member services and also digital. So at the moment we are undergoing a bit of a digital transformation at ICB, which involves us re-architecting our internal database where we keep all of our member records. And then also the final part of that journey is going to be making the website work better and be a little bit more easy on the eye, you could say. So that's all in the works at the moment. Now, you might be surprised to hear that ICB ourselves are actually quite a small organisation. We've got 25 permanent members of staff. And here's a little informal selfie we took the other day at one of our team building days. Now, most of us are working from home, but we've still got our office in London Bridge. So we're in there when we have big collaborative meetings and for anybody who wants to work. But a lot of the time when you speak to us, we probably are working from home. Now, in terms of our members, we've actually got about 15,000 students and members in the UK and 3,500 practices. So that makes us the leading professional body supervisor for bookkeepers. And we really pride ourselves on being the home of the UK bookkeeper, whether they're self-employed or employed. And we're here to support the success of professional bookkeepers. And that is success in its many guises. So whatever success means to you, we are here to support you. So we regulate and supervise our members, of course. It is a legal requirement to be supervised as a bookkeeper, but we're also here to inform you, support you and promote you, and ultimately to connect you. So here at ICB, we think that one of the biggest values of membership for you is the community that you're now a part of. So please do make the best use of that community, and I'll be talking a little bit more about that. But what a great place to speak to other people in your shoes. Sometimes working alone can be quite isolating, and we've certainly got members who literally are running a business from their kitchen table. So don't be a stranger. Do reach out to your fellow members and ask questions, share best practice. And what you will find actually is that a lot of branch meetings, our members go there to pass on clients. So that's also a wonderful use of that network. So what I wanted to do today is just talk you through the ICB website. Now, I'm sure you're very familiar with it, but I wanted to just signpost you to some of the areas that may well be particularly useful. So this is the homepage of the website. This is one of our members, Louise Ball. So please do let us know if you've got any success stories or interesting experiences that you think other members might be interested in, but just bear in mind, you may well end up on the homepage of the website. So this is the lovely Louise Ball, and you can read her story online. She was a nurse and decided that she, working as a nurse, she wasn't able to get the promotion that she wanted because she'd reduced her hours around her kids. And so she thought, you know what, I'd like a new profession. She literally Googled great professions to work around the family and just happened upon bookkeeping. So our members come to us from all different backgrounds. And certainly a lot of our members are finding that this really is a very scalable business that they can work in around their other commitments, whether it's young children or caring or perhaps even another job. So lots of people in that boat. Now, on the website, most of the useful information is here under this very sort of catch-all term, resources. But I would say pop over here to the resources tab. And if I do that myself now, it's going to take me to the website. Hopefully that's still big enough for everybody to read. Now, this is all the items that are under this resources tab. This one is obviously kind of important to you guys running a practice. Now, what I want to flag up to you is that this menu on the right-hand side opens up into further sub-menu items. So a lot of this is available to non-members as well. But as a practice license holder, you can access these, get a sort of a deeper dive into the areas of the website. Now, as a practice license holder, you should have the run of the site. So if you're finding that you can't access certain pages, do just give us a call and we can double check that you've got the right access. But there is some information here about developing your business, where to find clients, how to have your first meeting, bit of information about how much to charge. But obviously that's something that quite often evolves with the journey of your practice, and always something that you could bring to a branch meeting. So all of these areas, a bit of research on our website, a bit of research generally online, and then obviously Paula VC Smith is going to be giving you some information on that as well. So that's the running the practice area. Now we've also got, this is obviously a huge area for bookkeepers, and I'm really pleased that Lucy's going to be going into a bit more depth about this. But anti-money laundering is something that now absolutely applies to you, and it's a legal requirement that you take various steps and put in place procedures and checks in your business, train yourself and train any staff that you have. So this MLR section, money laundering regulations, covers all of that anti-money laundering requirements that are now placed upon you. And again, don't be afraid of this side menu here, because that's where you're going to drill down into that more specific guidance. Now, one of the best things about this, I would say, is this AML webinar section. So our Director of Compliance, Mike Jardine, did a series of short webinars just covering some of the areas that members found particularly tricky or were particularly important. So definitely a good idea to have a look at those webinars when you get the chance. It's all pre-recorded, so you can watch those whenever you like. Also, what I'm a big fan of is if you go down to the forms and checklists tab there, you can find a bunch of things to download. And the main one I would recommend is this AML to-do list download. So that is going to just talk you through some of the things you need to look at. And Lucy can back me up on that, I'm sure, when she talks a little bit later. So moving across over here, there's 2 pages here that are specific to members who are tax agents here, and also members who are payroll agents. So if you're doing tax, there's a bit of information here about how to register as a tax agent. Now that can sometimes be a bit of a sticking point, and obviously one that's really directly important for your relationship with your client. And you don't want to be faced with long delays and those kinds of difficulties. So there's a bit of information here about how you do that, as well as some information on what qualifications you actually need to do in order to offer those services. So that's quite often a bit of a question that we get asked is, now that I'm qualified, what are the services that I can actually offer to my clients? And I tell you actually what is a good place to start. If you just go to the membership page here and scroll down, and here is just an overview of the types of services and skills that we expect most members to have that you are now. I don't know what that little note is there that you can see, but hopefully you've been able to see and hear me this whole time. And so there's a bit of, just background sort of general information about what sort of services that you can offer. And also a very good way to check it is by going over here to the Find a Bookkeeper tab. Now, this is where the practice directory is, and clients can come and browse this directory. If you look up your postcode, this is mine, and find your listing, which is always a good idea anyway, to make sure that your details are correct, loads of bookkeepers in London. And here, where it says ICB licensed services, you will see there a nice list of the services that you are qualified with ICB to undertake. Now, you may well have been told by ICB that it's okay for you to continue offering a service that perhaps you are qualified to do by another body. So that's absolutely fine. But if you think you should be seeing other services here, or you are qualified somewhere else, do please let us know. Always just pick up the phone or send us an email just to double check that it's something that we know about. Right, so back to the resources tab. We've also got a similar section here, a sort of payroll hub for members who have got the payroll qualification. Now, at ICB, that is designated by you having PMDIP after your name, and PMDIP stands for Payroll Management Diploma. So if you've taken our payroll management diploma, you can then offer payroll and have that after your name. And if you're not qualified also in bookkeeping, you'll actually be called a payroll agent. So these pages are restricted to people with those qualifications. And we also, to help with payroll, because it is constantly changing, isn't it? As you well know. And we've also got a Wages Wednesday webinar with Ian Holloway, who is ICB's payroll policy advisor. So he is so super informed on payroll, and he wrote the payroll apprenticeship standards. So he's very involved with employers as well as apprentices, so both sides of that relationship. And he is doing a Wages Wednesday this week, in fact, that if you've done payroll with us, you have easy access to. So make sure that you go and see that if you're doing payroll. And looking at the list of people who've come today, most of you are offering payroll. Now, you have all managed to sign up to this event. So I imagine that you're already familiar with the events listing page of the website. I was just going to give you a little explanation for what's happening here. Unfortunately, we don't have, we're not listing events that happen in America. I must apologize. It's just that our algorithm gets a bit confused when we say that events are happening in an online venue, and it can't place it geographically. So please just ignore the map while most of our events continue to run virtually. Now, we would highly recommend that you consider joining your local branch. They'll always have their events listed on the website, but you can also access a list of the branches by selecting here and just finding your area here in the side menu if you think there should be a branch near you. Now, if you can't find a branch near you, then get on the blower and see what we've got happening in your area. And we would always encourage you to consider setting up your own branch. It's a responsibility that you can share amongst your fellow members, and there's always ways that we can support you in doing that, because we truly believe that there's a huge value in attending your local branch. And bear in mind that most of these events, because they're online, you don't have to necessarily be from Exeter. If you want to go to this Devon branch meeting, you can just show up. So I would highly encourage you to do so. And all the branches are different, but you will be guaranteed to meet lovely bookkeepers, and there is such a wonderful, warm and welcoming community. And we hear it time and time again that there just really isn't much competition in the bookkeeping community. And I think that's partly because you're all so wonderful, but also because there really is such a huge amount of work. And like I said, in one of our most recent surveys, a lot of our members said one of the key reasons they went to branches was to hand over clients. So you may well find that you get somebody approach you and they use Xero in their business and you like to use QuickBooks. So the branches are a really great resource for you if you want somebody good and qualified that you can recommend that client to. And similarly, if you get a client who's in a sector that you have decided not to specialize in, or you're up to your ears in self-assessments, please do extend that out to that network. And even if you're not in that part of your practice and you're not overwhelmed with clients, although I'm sure you will be soon, you can use that branch network to speak to people and ask for advice, because it will be freely given. So the news. Now, I imagine you probably found out about this event through the news, but here is all of our news, and we're adding news content all the time. But we do a monthly roundup, so you should get a newsletter every single month with a roundup of that news. And if you are thinking there's a gap there, and you think, why are they not mentioning this thing? Please do let us know. Again, pick up the phone, send us an email, ask to speak to me, and just say, look, why don't you have a feature on this? Why don't you do that? Because we're always very keen to make sure that's as targeted and relevant for you as possible. We're all busy people. So don't let us waste your time. If something's crying out to be popped in the newsletter or stuck up on the news page, just let us know and we'll absolutely consider it. We've got bookkeeping jobs here. These, again, are usually restricted to you according to the skills that you've done through your ICB qualifications or those that you've been exempt from. We've got 174 current jobs listed. Now, some of them may be a little bit old, but quite a few from as recently as the 27th of January. Some of these, they're a bit of a mixed bag. Some of them are for part-time employment. Some of them will be for people just wanting to contract out to a bookkeeper. Some of them are our members who want a bookkeeper to work for them. And that's something that happens quite a lot as well, is that our members are actively seeking new ICB bookkeepers to come and work in their practice. And certainly a nice way to start if you are kind of new to the world of bookkeeping, as so many of you are. So just to reassure you, a lot of our members, before they set up their bookkeeping practice with ICB, have never worked in bookkeeping before and haven't even run their own businesses before. So if that applies to you, you're certainly not alone. And it is absolutely not a barrier to you reaching your goals. So don't let fear stand in your way, because you are definitely amongst a lot of people who have written the book on turning to this as a new career and really making it work. So also, one of those huge questions when you start your bookkeeping business, I'm sure, is what software am I supposed to use? Well, do look at that software page of the website, because these are all the pieces of software that ICB has actually accredited. Now, this includes all the main ones like Xero, Sage, QuickBooks, and Free Agent, which is this sort of core bookkeeping products. We actually don't have any in-depth reviews of those, I think, because they were so sort of ubiquitous in the landscape. But a couple of people have called up recently to say, well, actually, you need to review those. So we're going back to all of those big providers to review them. And so do watch this space for a proper review of QuickBooks and Sage. And obviously these pieces of software are changing all the time, and they're doing that in response to your feedback. So we keep relationships with these providers so that we can keep that the channel of communication open. And if bookkeepers say, well, I need this automated, or I need this kind of feature, and we make sure that we provide that. Also, you can do that when you go to events where they are exhibiting. So we usually have software providers exhibiting at our major events like the Inspire Tour, which is our sort of mid-year event. And actually in the newsletter, we've asked you which locations we should host the Inspire Tour in. So we're going to be doing a sort of new tax year update in various areas, including a bit of payroll and tax and anti-money laundering. And we're hoping to come out to about 5 major cities in the UK. And the Inspire Tour is really our sort of mini roadshow that we do. So please have your say in that, and you can vote for that in the in this month's newsletter, as I say. And you may get the opportunity to meet some of these great providers. Now, there's also all sorts of extra bits of software that you might be wanting to use, things like Practice Ignition, which helps you build out your quotes for clients, Smart Vault, which helps you save your documents for clients, and things like Float, which help you manage cash flow for your clients. So I would say, go take a look at this page, and all of the reviews you read will have been written by an ICB member, and we do not accredit a piece of software until an ICB bookkeeper has said, yes, this is fit for purpose, and this is good for bookkeepers. So I would highly recommend that. And then just coming to the end here, we've also got some information about Brexit and COVID. So if there's any huge changes, we always do our very best to just translate the vital information and make sure that it's clear. I think probably the COVID pages particularly, hopefully, fingers crossed, are seeing their sort of last days, and they'll be off the website in not too long. Now that is about it, other than to say that we do have, and we've popped some information about this in our latest article about 2022's essential bookkeeping events. So we're really doing three, in addition to our new practice webinars, which are mostly repeated every month. So don't feel like you need to keep coming to the new practice webinar, because if you've watched it once, you've probably got most of the information. But in addition to that, we've got three regular webinars. We used to do Thank Furlough, it's Friday on a Friday, but obviously furlough is a little bit behind us now. So we've got Wages Wednesday with Ian that I mentioned earlier. And then Jackie, our head of technical policy, who's been at ICB for just years and actually was there right at the beginning of ICB 25 years ago, writing qualifications for bookkeepers. She's doing two webinars now, one of which is Technical Tuesday. It's on a Tuesday once a month, the second Tuesday of the month, where she will take a technical issue. It could be CIS, it could be changes to IR35, something like that. And she just distills that down so that it makes sense and you've got all the necessary information that you need. She's also now going to do a regular monthly webinar, at least one, on we're calling it the gov.uk roundup, but it's really just a sort of regulations roundup. So don't worry, you don't have to read everything because you can always just check in to Jackie's gov.uk roundup and she will cover all the most important information for bookkeepers. And she puts a similar article in the newsletter as well, just to make sure that you're not missing anything. So I highly recommend that. And we will send direct emails to you about any webinars that we think are relevant, and they will we'll also put information in the newsletter. So if you're not getting emails about that, again, just let us know because you might miss something. But always just check the events page of the website and you'll see all those webinars and you'll see all the branch meetings as well. Now, I'm sort of aware that I've been talking for ages, it seems. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go back to this slide and just briefly change the subject slightly and talk a little bit about social media. So you're probably already all over social media. We've got Paula. Paula's lovely LinkedIn profile here. One of the things I wanted to say is please do use your ICB post-nominal letters in your LinkedIn profile. So Paula here has C.FICB. Sometimes we call them post-nominals as in after the name. Sometimes we call them designatory letters to designate what you've achieved. But they're a really big deal. And everybody here at this webinar has MICB after their name. Some of you have got PMDIP as well. The PMDIP just being Payroll Management Diploma. And people like Paula actually have C.FICB. So F stands for Fellow, which is the top level of membership that you can achieve after you've done at least 3 level 4 qualifications with us. But the C actually stands for Companion. You can't take an exam to become a companion. It is something that is given to you as an honour in response to something that you have done to contribute to ICB. And Paula has been touring the country, talking to bookkeepers, sharing her knowledge and running the Advisory Council for a few years now. So to reward her for her contribution to ICB and making a real difference to bookkeepers, she is now one of our companions, C.FICB. Now, when you use those designatory letters after your name, not only does it make you look good for your clients, it also helps to raise the profile of ICB and professional bookkeepers everywhere. So I highly recommend you do it. And you can also add ICB into the licenses and certifications section of your profile, as Paula has done here. So you can put us alongside the likes of Sage and Free Agent and Xero if you're a certified advisor, if you've done their necessary tests. But also I would recommend you put in your practice license. You could also put in individual qualifications if you want to, and your membership. But the key thing is, if you're doing it properly, our logo should appear. So please make sure that you tag us and not our Australian ICB. It's tricky because on LinkedIn, they are down as ICB and we're down as ICB UK. So this is our logo, this is correct, that's their one, which is slightly wrong. And so if you see that looking there, you've done it wrong. So ours should be ICB space UK. And, you know, they are our sister organisation, so it's not the end of the world, but we don't want to give them all the credit. So do try to look for ICB space UK and our logo should appear there with ICB underneath it. And to be pleased to know I'm coming to an end. So the final thing I was going to say was, if you want to just to finesse your profile as much as possible, you can also change your public, your URL. So by default, you'll end up with a URL, which is your name, linkedin.com/your name, and then a bunch of numbers, but you can actually take those numbers out as long as nobody else has that URL. And I'm pleased to say, so this is, Paula's lovely LinkedIn profile URL, looking very nice and clear. It's not a big deal if you end up with these numbers like Lucy has, but again, if you want something nice and small to put on a business card, or you want to be able to remember it off the top of your head, it's like a nice little detail. So I would also recommend that you go and join our brand new Facebook group for new practices. Now, I've put the URL here, and I would highly recommend that you get out of your comfort zone. If this is not usually the kind of thing you do, go and introduce yourself to that group. Post a profile picture, post a selfie, show people what you look like when you're at your desk. If you've got 2 screens, if you've got one, if you've got a scanner, we do really want to know. So post a picture of yourself if you want to. Tell us about your practice. Tell us what challenge you've got this week, or why you decided to start your business. Please do, even if that grosses you out, I would highly recommend you go and do that. It's a private group and it's just for ICB new practices. So there's really nothing to worry about, but I highly recommend you go there and you introduce yourself and start to get to know your fellow new practices. So I would just say that we've had feel the fear and do it anyway, says Tina Marshall. Thank you. I appreciate that. I think that really is important. And if you can use ICB and our network as a safe space to test out your ideas and and feel the fear, so that when you go out into the wider arena or you're speaking to a client, you've got a little bit of confidence that you're doing it right and you haven't completely said something crazy. So we're certainly that safe space for you to test out your ideas. And you'll be pleased to know that's all from me, and I shall drink some more water and hopefully become less and less husky as the meeting goes on. So let me stop sharing there. And what I would just say, because I did forget, is do please post questions and post in the chat, because we will get round to all of your questions at the end of the session. So Lucy, our Director of Professional Standards, I'd very much like to pass over to you if you're ready.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Amy. And I now feel like I can't shorten my LinkedIn URL, otherwise we won't have an example for the next month. So that's the only reason that I'm keeping it long and like it is. Okay, I am going to share my screen. Right. Hopefully I have the slides up now. So I'm going to talk you through some of the professional standards. First of all, I'm Lucy Brown. I'm Director of Professional Standards, as Amy said. I joined ICB in April last year, having been a member in practice for about 8 years, initially as a sole trader, and then I went limited a couple of years before I stopped. So I've done all this. I've been in your shoes. I started from the beginning. I've gone through and I've ended up selling my business. So any questions, I can give you my own personal experiences. So I've realized I've got my slide on the wrong screen and working out how to go backwards. Right, okay, so I'm going to go through the money laundering regulations. There are lots of them. So the main one is the MLR 17, although as bookkeepers, we are obligated to follow and legislated by other legislation, such as the Proceeds of Crime Act, 2002, Bribery Act, Terrorism Act. You need to be aware of all these. ICB wouldn't expect you to read them word for word. We provide you the guidance. It is sometimes useful to go to the MLR 17 and look up specific things if you are uncertain about something. But as with any legislation, it's all quite difficult to interpret. So that's why we provide the information you need. As Amy pointed out, Mike has done all the Mike on Mondays, which if you follow those, you follow the guidance on the spread on the website, and you read what you can on the website, on HMRC, everything else you should be doing all right. So MLR 17, there's things that you need to do for your practice and things you need to do for clients. So with the practice, you need to have training and a training record. ICB are bringing out a new AML training course, which will be examined. Everyone getting a practice license will be required to do it. Those who have a practice license already will be invited to do it if they would like to. But each year you need to do training, and you need to write that training down. You need to have a record of it. On the website, in the MLR section, there is a training record template that you can use. We don't insist that you use any of our templates, but we have them there for you to use if you'd like to do. The other things you have to do is a whole of practice risk assessment and a policy procedures control document. So your whole of practice risk assessment looks at the risk your clients bring to your practice. So you need to take consideration of the kinds of transactions that they are dealing with, where they are geographically located. Why has a client rung you up from 200 miles away to ask you to be their bookkeeper when they would have local ones? What, if anything, are they trying to hide? Is there issues there? So you're looking at all those kind of things and just assessing the risk that your practice is under, that one of your clients might end up laundering money and you become an enabler. So if you are dealing with a client that is laundering money and you are unaware of it, and the signs were there, you could be classed as an enabler and get into quite serious trouble. If you become aware that one of your clients is laundering money or you're suspicious, you need to raise a suspicious activity report with the NCA, the National Crime Agency. And again, all the information for doing that, for registering with NCA, is on the website. Our team is here. If you have any specific questions, get in touch with us and I'll give you the email address later to do that. Other things for your practice is your boom approval. So any business owner operate, I can't remember what the other row is for. Business owner or your managers need to have a DBS submitted to ICB. We need to approve those people. And if you are offering trust and company service provider services, you need to register on the TCSP register. So if you are helping your clients form companies, if you are acting as a registered address, if you are a director for one of your clients, you need to be on that register. There's no cost to it, but it is a requirement that you are on it. Okay, so then moving on to your clients. For each client you onboard, you need to have photo ID, proof of address, and you need to verify that. So you need to have a meeting with them, a face-to-face meeting, even if that's online, so that you can compare that photo ID to who you're talking to, because it's all very well them sending a passport or a driving license. You've got a photo of a person, but how do you know that that person you are talking to is the one on the driving license or passport? So you need to see them face to face. If you can't for any reason, you can do online verification using there's various softwares such as Verify, Credit Safe, I think, and Accountancy Manager have an option. So you can do that online verification. ICB much prefer that you see them face to face. It's to protect you. If you took third-party due diligence from an accountant, so if you've got sharing a client with an accountant and the accountant says, we've done client due diligence, that's fine. You need in writing from that accountant that they have it and that they will provide you those client due diligence documents if you need them. Again, ICB prefer that you take that due diligence off the client yourself rather than relying on someone else, but it's within legislation that you are able to do that. You need to be able to identify if any of your clients or their close associates are politically exposed persons, so members of the local council or parliament. It's those people that are more at risk of bribery, and they would need enhanced due diligence. So just extra checks on them. You need to do annual risk reviews of all your clients. So relook at all that documentation, make sure it's all in date. Have they moved house? Has anything changed? Have the owners of the company changed? If you've got a corporate client, so a limited company, you need to check on company's house for their incorporation certificate. You need to check who the persons with significant control is. You need to do client due diligence on all the directors and persons with significant control. And you need to make sure each year that nothing's changed. And if it has, you just need to redo client due diligence if it's necessary, and you need to update your risk assessment. So all these documentation, so all your client due diligence, all your practice risk assessments, all of that documentation needs to be retained. The risk assessments and your practice documents for 5 years, and for client due diligence, it's 5 years after the end of the business relationship. That all needs to be kept. It all needs to be kept very securely because, see, it's personal information. Now, the thing we also insist on all your clients is that they go on AML online, and that's a risk assessment piece of software that's held under my ICB, and you put in your clients and you answer a lot of questions, and it relates to all the bits that feed into your practice risk assessment about where they are, what services you're offering, how they're instructing you, whether they're being open and honest with you. And at the end of that form, you get a risk rating for your client. And that all feeds into your overall risk rating. It also feeds into ICB's risk rating of all its members, which we then have to do for our governing body, OPAS, and we have to report on that annually. So it's really important that as soon as you get your client, it goes on AML online, and you record everything. We are obligated to ensure that all our members are complying with the legislation. And there are certain things that we have to do. So we inspect our members. We have 4 inspectors, I think, at the moment, and they will come to your practice or meet you over Zoom if you can't do a face-to-face, and talk through all your AML practice and just check that you have client due diligence, that you are aware of what your obligations are, that you're recording everything properly, that you're retaining your documents, all the things I've just spoken about. They will come and check. And we are also obligated to then sanction anyone that isn't complying. So if you breach those regulations, you will get a monetary fine. So we're here to help. We're here to encourage and teach you what to do and help you with that journey. But in the end, if you don't comply with that legislation, we need to penalise you. We obviously can't inspect 5,000, 3,500 practices every year. So we run a risk-based approach to our inspections. And at the moment, the high risk areas that we need to look out for are members on the TCSP register. So those trust and service trusted company service providers and payroll are meant to be high risk services that our members offer to their clients. And so currently we will look at people offering those. If we are worried about any one of them, we will inspect. We will find that when we are looking at our records, if something doesn't match up with what we're expecting to see, that might trigger an inspection. So those are the things that will lead us to potentially inspecting. We might already know there's something wrong, but we also are obliged to test our risk-based approach by selecting at least 1 in 5 of our inspections that we expect to pass. So if we ring you up and say we're coming to do an inspection, don't just naturally assume that you're doing something wrong. It might be that you want that 1 in 5 and everything's good. If you get an inspection, be open and honest with the inspectors, because we want to help and get everything compliant. So if we notice that there are little things wrong and we can help you get that right, and going forward, everything will be good. So you need to comply with legislation, but you also need to comply with ICB rules, and they are written within the professional conduct regulations. And I'll show you some links on the website in a little bit, but these are the list of rules that as a member you need to follow. They apply to all members, from student members to companion members, and they apply across all your clients, even voluntary roles. So if you're not charging a client, they still fall within your client base and fall under these rules. So trust in the accounts and books of businesses and individuals is dependent on the bookkeeper's truthful, careful and diligent making and keeping of records. And that's really important. There is no point in having a bookkeeper who isn't diligent, isn't making the records correct, because if they're not correct, if they're not timely, they are no use to your client. So the PCR, the professional conduct regulations, sets the standards required to ensure that we all achieve that. So what are professional standards? Professor Mark Watson-Gandy wrote, professionals are expected by employers, clients, and by the public to adopt a higher standard of conduct and behaviour in their professional life. It is that which underpins our in us as professionals. Members who are examined to a really high standard. We are known for our professional excellence and robust ethical standards. So going into a little bit more detail, and I'll rush through this a bit. I'm sure the slides will come out to members, to all these attendees afterwards. But when you set up in business, you have to do certain things. And most of you would have done lots of this. And I've listed some items. On the right hand side is whether it comes under the PCR or the money laundering regulations, or both of them. So you will need professional indemnity insurance of at least £50,000. You need to elect a money laundering reporting officer and potentially a money laundering compliance person. You need to apply for a practice license and upload your DBS and photo IDs for booms, and we will be asking for proof of address going forward as well. If using advertising material, we ask the ICB check it over and approve it. If you've got a website, put our coat of arms on it, make sure your practice license number is underneath it and it hyperlinks through to the ICB website. And also make sure there's a note on your website to say you are supervised, licensed, regulated by for AML by ICB. Ensure you have that AML training and all your staff, and it all needs to be written down. So even if you are a sole trader, just working on your own, you need to have it recorded. Okay, register with the ICO and National Crime Agency, and set up systems for identifying politically exposed persons, and keep an eye on expiry dates. So if you've got a member with passport for photo ID, just make a note of when that expires, because as it expires, you will need a new copy. When you take on a client, they've said collect ID and proof of address before you start working. If they're a politically exposed person, do enhanced due diligence. And I'm rushing through this, all of this information. You can go into more depth on the website, look at Michael Monday, and he'll explain what enhanced due diligence is. Okay. Google your client. If they're a limited company, you check Companies House, make sure you know who the client is. If it's a corporate company and they are owned by another limited company, you need to dig down to get to that end owner. Okay. Add the client to AML Online. And AML Online, there's a risk at the bottom. If you want to, you can raise or lower that risk, but you need to justify that change. So make sure you really think through why you would do that. Know what to do if you take third-party due diligence, and request professional clearance from any past bookkeeper the client's had. So if they are moving bookkeeper, you need to go to that previous bookkeeper and ask that they're happy to hand things over, and if there's any issues you need to be aware of. You are obliged by the MLR to tell your client of the use of their personal data. If you use the ICB letter of engagement, there is that paragraph in there, so you're covered there. And only agree to do services that you are qualified for. If you don't have that qualification, you are not allowed to do it. So if you haven't taken your SAT exam, you haven't taken your payroll exam, don't do it. Simple. There's no excuse. So the last thing on my list was ethical obligations, because rules are rules, but sometimes you're in a situation where actually you need to go beyond those rules and just do what is right. So we're guided by 5 fundamental principles of integrity, objectivity, professional competence and due care, confidentiality, and professional behaviour. And they're pretty much as they say. Integrity, be straightforward and honest in all your professional relationships. Objectivity, don't compromise your professional business judgments because of bias, because of conflict of interest or anything else. Okay, professional competence and due care. You need to keep up to date with your learning. Go to the Wages Wednesday, the Jackie Mount's Technical Tuesdays. Keep yourself up to date. Come to Inspire, come to Summit. We will keep you informed of changes with legislation and the newsletter, everything else. If you engage with that, you will keep yourself up to date and be a wonderful bookkeeper. Okay. Confidentiality. You're dealing with someone's livelihood, their business. Don't spill the beans. Also, just don't talk badly of your clients to someone else. It doesn't look good. It won't be good for your business, and land you into trouble in the end. And then professional behaviour. Comply with all the law. Comply with the legislation and regulations. We are here to help you do that. So I said I'd look at the website. Amy's shown you where most things are, but under membership, you've got the ethics and regulations section, and that is where you can find the professional conduct regulations, some of our policies, and then the sanctions document. So if you want scaring and need a little bit of extra impetus to follow all those legislations and regulations, take a look at the disciplinary sanctions. That will tell you how much you might get penalised for if you do not comply. We don't like having to fine people. We have given an awful lot of training and advice and all the information that you could possibly need. As Amy said, look at the to-do list, the AML to-do list, and you can't really go wrong. but we are finding that some people are still not compliant. So we are obliged by OPBAS to fine, and we will have to do that. So I don't want to be emailing you with a fine. Please read the information or ask the questions. So then money laundering regulations, Amy showed you this page on the website, but as she said, down the right-hand side, you've got all those links to further information. And further down that page, you've got that AML to-do list where you can log into AML online. And at the bottom bit, the AML guidance. So I shall stop sharing my screen if I can work out how to. Oh, I can't stop share. There we go. I'm back in the room. It's a real whistle-stop tour. I don't want to scare anyone, but it's a serious profession. We are regulated and we have to do the right thing. If you want to ask more questions about AML, we have a dedicated email address, which is aml@bookkeepers.org.uk. Anything about the professional standards, it's professional.standards@bookkeepers.org.uk. And Amy, you don't want me to hand back to you or straight on to Paula?
I would love that. I was just going to say that we will send a follow-up email with a recording to this webinar and with some of those key links and email addresses. So don't worry if it's going too fast. And now over to the wonderful Paula, who is your advisory council chair.
Well, hi, everybody. First of all, I just want to thank Lucy. It's a hard presentation to have to make. And well done, everybody, for staying up with it. And that information is gold dust. It may seem slightly scary. Funnily enough, this morning in my own practice and my practice as it stands at the moment, well, I joined the ICB in 1998. I'm nearly as old in the ICB as Gary is, and we both have the same length hair. I went limited company in 2006. So this is how long I've been doing it. This morning, I was actually updating my records on the ICB. See, Lucy's typing already to check. Oh, Paula said she's been updating her records on the ICB AML, but I was. That's how important it is to me. So I know that is a quite heavy presentation to sit through, but every point made is incredibly important. And I always say I'm absolutely delighted to follow that with some more exciting stuff about, hey, I've got my practice license. What do I do now? So we have got the chat. So as I talk, if you've got questions or things I say or whatever, do use that chat, and hopefully either Lucy or Amy can just monitor that for me so I can pick up questions that I have. The first thing I've got to say is congratulations and welcome to the ICB. It's a fantastic place to be. It wouldn't be a fantastic place if, you know, I've stayed here for, you know, nearly 23 years on and off in various licenses. So it must be a great place to be, because I wouldn't have stayed this long if it wasn't. So congratulations and welcome. There is so much information that we give you and that is available to help you grow your business. And that's what we're going to look at now. Where are you? Where do you want to start? Where do you want to go? I often talk about baby steps or step by steps. You've just got your license. There's probably a million questions that you have got. So I've been in business with the limited company since 2006. I was going to put my website up, but that has already been presented, so I won't bother. But it takes time to go from getting your license to building a business, and it all depends on what you want to achieve and what you want to do. The first question we're often asked is, should I be a limited company or should I be a sole trader? And my answer to that is always usually the same. Think about where you want to go. And if you're just starting off with bookkeeping, then being a sole trader is absolutely fine. If you've already got visions of taking the bookkeeping world over, and hopefully some of you have, and hopefully some of you will do, then consider going limited company status, but realizing that there is more involvement in that. I am a limited company. I employ 5 people, soon to be 6. but you know, it's taken me time to grow and get there. So when you start off, the question of, well, how should I structure myself is often a question, and really and of course there's also partnerships. It's really a question of, what are you thinking of doing and where are you thinking of going? There is absolutely nothing wrong with you setting up, getting a practice license and thinking, I've got a couple of days a week. I'd love to fill that with a bit of work, but you know, for me at the moment, that's fine. So that will drive and direct you in terms of what sort of clients you're looking for and how much you want to build your business. So the sort of baby steps or step-by-steps process is, you are here now, new practice license holders. Think about where you want to go. Think about where you want to be in a year's time, 5 years time. And some of you, well, like me, I started, my kids were young, and I just thought, you know, I'm not going to be a stay-at-home mum. I would really like to go out and work, and the ICB qualifications and the work I could get just made a load of sense to me. So I took that route, got my qualifications. I tended to go in and work at offices, and that's how I started my journey. So how you start your journey and where you land up could be two different things. So just think about where you are at the moment. Think about where you want to go, and don't jump to things. Don't think, oh, I've got to be a limited company straight away. I've got to employ people straight away. I've got to get an office straight away. Get yourself going, and then see where the steps lead you, but also have a vision of where you want to go in terms of your practice. So whether you be a limited company or sole trader, it's very much up to you. I know, Lucy, you changed from sole trader to limited company. I've done the same thing. So it's easy to switch from one to the other, but don't feel you have to do that straight away. But if you're ready to set up a limited company, then please do that. I see there's a question up. Is that something to cover now, or perhaps wait till the end? I'm waiting for end. Okay, that's fine. We'll come to that. I think it's Mandy. We will come to that. We're coming on to how much to charge a client. That's always the biggest question. So that's limited. The other thing bringing into that is working from home or working from an office. Now, I've had experience of both. I had an office, but I let it go, and it's quite a funny story. Sorry, guys, I'll try and keep my funny stories short. A bit of a Gary Carter at heart, sorry. But I had an office, and then in August 2019, the lease came up on it. And at that time, my team had changed quite a lot. So I let the office go because we just weren't using it. And then, of course, in March 2020, COVID hit. So a lot of my friends were going, how did you know? I said, well, I didn't know. It's just that the office didn't fit in with my business model at that time. So we actually work remotely. I've got a very good VPN, virtual private network set in. I've put a lot of techno in for my company to run, because a lot of my team are school mums who can work between 10 and 2, so they can just get the kids to school, log in, and off we go. So this is actually a home office. So whether to work from home or office, I think that's a very different question now to what it was before COVID. The observations that I would have about working from home is, be strict with yourself. I'm lucky I've got a separate room. I can close the door, or I just put my banner in front of it so I can't get in or get out. And the other thing is the continual bothering. I'm waiting for a delivery. The door is probably going to knock any second. So you can get more disruption. But I think for bookkeepers, especially if you're starting out, working from home, but having a defined space and perhaps defined time limits on when you work and how you work, especially if you don't have an office, if you're working from the dining room table or the kitchen table, just make sure that you define when you're working, pack everything away, and put it away when you've finished working. The other option, of course, is serviced office addresses. There are lots of those around the place where you can go to a business centre in your local town, get a registered address there. They will receive your post and do many other services for you, including giving you meeting rooms when you need them. They're a really good option. So personally, I think working from home is so much more acceptable now, as long as you have it set up properly and you make sure that you just don't become enslaved to it. And if it turns out that getting an office or getting a unit suits you, then when that time comes along, think about that, and there are benefits in that as well. Limited partnerships. What's in a name? A lot of new bookkeeping clients struggle with what to call themselves, and it is a really, really open question. So I am Empower Accounting. There are some fantastic names out there. We've got Kirsty's Accounting. You can use 3-letter digits like some accountants. So I could call myself PVS Bookkeeping. We've got Team 4. Lots of good names out there, and this is, I think, where you can be creative and just settle on a name. Don't fuss about it too much. One of my favorite stories is about 4 or 5 years ago. I went around the country and did business builder workshops, and one of the ladies there, and I hope I'm not going to tread on any toes, had ginger hair, and she said, "I want to call myself Ginger Accounting. Is that okay?" And I was just like, "Yeah, it's a great name. You're working on something about you that defines you." And I think in the business building booklet, you might not have had it yet, or it's coming out to you. It is be creative. There are no hard and fast rules. So any name that you think represents you, it's fine to go with that. But on what I'd say with that is, I'm going to say builder branding. And that sounds really, really big, but all it says is think it through. So if you can see behind me, I've got Empower Accounting, and one of the things that it runs through my whole practice is the color pink. I might just share my screen now to go to my website. Share. There we go. So we've got the color pink running through. I've been lucky enough to spend a bit of money to get a website up and running. We've got a video. I won't play that now. And I've also invested in the background, and then it goes through. But the color pink runs through. I've also got all my certifications and the software that I run through my company on that. The key thing with it is to me, it flows. It all works together. Now, yes, I've paid for that website. I've been in practice for since the ARC left. But you can actually build a website quite cheaply, and I do believe, and I'm going to hope that Amy nods, that one of the preferred partners, let me say the thing first, for goodness sake, one of the preferred partners is a website hosting or a website place you can build. Oh, she's nodding now.
I'm sorry, I was so sure I was going to agree with you, but actually in the case of the website builder, we did have a national partner that had a great deal for bookkeepers, but it has since come to an end. And what we find actually is a lot of members prefer to go to a local supplier, because what a great opportunity to meet a local business and tell them that you're a bookkeeper. So it's something that sort of is under review, but yeah, what you're referring to, I'm afraid, is no longer available.
Okay.
Plenty of local suppliers.
Local suppliers, things like, because I've got a local supplier, there was Wix and Weebly. You can actually, in an evening, create a simple but effective work page. So a web page, let's get all those words in the right order. So all I would say is, when you think about your name, think about how you're going to represent yourself, think about, and as I said, it's a bit of a scary word, but the branding. The one thing I would say equivocally is, don't use Gmail accounts. I find when I'm reaching people in business, it's Gmail or Hotmail. If you can possibly set up an account that could be your name, so I'm Paula at empoweraccounting.com, then do that, because I think the Hotmails and the Gmails slightly take your professionalism away from you, and much of what we've been saying today is about professionalism. So yeah, I know many of you might have got your name, but the two things that I think are incredibly important when you set your business up is a business card. Funnily enough, stationery is coming back. Stationery is actually coming back. People have said, oh, business cards are dead. You know, from Vista for £40 you can get a business card. They're incredibly useful, and I actually need to order some more and get a website. It is like your shop window on your business. I could go into lots of other social media stuff, which could go on forever. And as Amy pointed out, I find LinkedIn very useful. I think it's a good place to start because it links professionals with professionals. And I also use Google Business, because if people put your name of your business in, it comes up, and get some likes and representation on that, and it just gives you a little bit more presence. Finding clients, well, decide what clients you want. Often when you start out, you want any client. I remember those days, and I had a friend said to me, what's a good client? I said, one that breathes and pays. That is not necessarily the best recommendation for you, but as Lucy said, you can only deal with the clients you're qualified to deal with. Think about the clients that you'd like to attract. When I first started out, which is more years ago than I care to remember, I used to look at the newspaper ads. My goodness, it wasn't even on the internet then. And there would be an advert for, we need an accounts assistant, and I'd ring them up and I go, are you interested in a freelancer coming in and doing your bookkeeping? And I used to like to work with limited companies, so I would leave home, leave the kids, it was great, go out and do my hours in an office and come back home again. So I knew kind of the clients I wanted to attract. And I think you have to think about that now. In today's situation, it's very, very different. But think about the clients you want to attract. Is it a specific area? Is it a specific a business that you'd like to look at? Are you looking for locality? I'm really happy to pick up clients where I live. And then when you think about the clients you want to attract, it's how do I go and find them? So there's a lot on social media, but there are so many other things you can do as well to find clients. Networking is an interesting one. I was an anti-networker, but I've done some networking and it's actually proved to be quite useful. There are groups that you can join to find clients. Local business associations are great. I'm the treasurer of my local business association. Join your local business association, because that will introduce you to people. Friends and family and friends of friends and family are fantastic. Tell people what you're doing. Just, when you're at parties, my husband thinks I'm a complete pain because I just say, oh, I do this. What do you do? And I remember having this conversation once where the chap said, oh, you do bookkeeping? Oh, we've got that all sorted. And within 5 minutes, he was going, oh, bookkeeping's a shambles. So don't be embarrassed to talk about what you do, because it will open doors. Contact local accountants. Find your local accountants, give them a ring, drop them a letter, let them know your details. Local accountants are often shouting out for bookkeepers, because they're, and seriously, I'm not making this up. Look at my red eyes. There are not enough bookkeepers out there at the moment. We get requests all the time. This is probably one of the best times to become a bookkeeper, because really there is such demand. So just get yourself out there. Can't do this without mentioning the ICB branches. And Amy will be pleased to hear this. This is news hot off the press, but if all goes to plan, Kent is going to be revived again. Excellent. But the wonderful thing about your branches, and Lucy mentioned that, is you get a chance to network with fellow ICB bookkeepers. And it's not just about exchanging clients, it's about exchanging knowledge. It's a really fantastic place just to build your confidence. And of course, it's already been covered, but the ICB website itself, where it puts out postings for positions. So there are so many ways you can find your clients. So think about what your bookkeeping practice is like. Think about your name. Build a branding, big word, but it isn't. I mean, if you want to do it simply, branding, mine is pink. So, you know, get the website, get a business card, get out there. And what was the thing the lady said at the start? You know, just feel the fear and get out there, because you have got so much support through the ICB, through the seminar like this, through being able to ring in, through the branches. You really can just get out there and find your clients. Pricing, I know that came up earlier. Gosh, that is such a huge area. The thing that I think is the most important is, do not undersell yourself. It's so easy to discount or say, oh, I'll just charge you X amount. The pamphlet that comes out gives you a range of pricing. I would say be bold, especially at the moment. I'm not going to tell you what I charge, but I would certainly say something above 20 is completely acceptable. And I think you'd be surprised when you go out and give your charge. Be bold and it will be accepted. Are you going to charge by the hour? Are you going to do fixed priced contracts through the month? That's something you have to consider and debate. In my practice, I think we're probably going back more to the hour, because especially when you pick up a new client, it is sometimes hard to evaluate exactly how much time that's going to take, and I have made that mistake a couple of times. So how much do you charge? Well, without trying to sound flippant, charge as much as you can. I mean, don't be ridiculous, but I think some people think, oh, you know, 12, 13. No. You are worth so much more than that, with your qualifications, with the backing of the ICB. And I think it is a question of just believing in your professionalism and qualifications and skill that you have. So please don't undersell yourself, because once you've done that, it's very hard to pick that hourly rate up. I have a few other. I'm not going to get into employing staff. That is beyond the realm of this presentation. We've talked a bit about getting an office. I would say wherever you are now, do have that view of where you want to take yourself in terms of a 5-year plan. It doesn't have to be a properly bound book that's been signed off by bankers. It's just you writing down, okay, this is where I'm at, just got my license. I may want to, you know, my aim may be to pick up 3 clients a week and work 2 days a week, or, you know, or something like that. Or you might want to say, well, actually, I do want to build staff and I do want to grow. I mean, I'm on about 80 clients at the moment. I mean, they're basically killing me, but don't take that into consideration. And if that's what you want to do, then build a plan into getting there over 5 years. VAT registration, it's up to you. You can register for VAT at any point voluntarily, which might be useful because if you're working with limited companies, you can register for VAT. The limited companies will be VAT registered and you can get VAT off your purchases. And the only other thing I was going to talk about, but I know we've got quite a few questions coming in, was just organising your day. I actually, and I'll share my screen again, have a daily sheet. I can't find it now. Where's it gone? I had got it up and ready. Give me a second. So organise your day to maximise the time efficiency you're going to get from it. I know where it is. Hold on a second. There we go. So I have a very simple plan where I literally have the week commencing and I write down the things I need to achieve, any meetings I've got in like this afternoon, any personal stuff as well, because personal stuff can impinge on you. And I start building that plan at the beginning of the week. And it really, really helps me to focus on what needs to be done. And one of the things I'm very, very conscious about is I think as people, we are very good at hitting ourselves over the head for the things we haven't done. But building this daily plan and ticking things off really helps me see what I have done. So I can end my day and feel very positive rather than thinking, oh gosh, I've got all this stuff to do. So that's just a little tip that I use to sort of ensure that as I'm running a practice, I just don't get overwhelmed. I think that's covered everything on my list, and we've got some questions. Amy, do you want to fire some off?
We've got a fair few questions, and thank you everybody who's asked a question. It's good to know that you're alive still. We haven't talked to you into oblivion. And some of these questions have been pasted in from Facebook. Now, Mandy Carpenter, to start at the top, really, just wondered whether there could be some more guidance on other things, such as day-to-day bookkeeping tasks. For example, and you're talking sort of about like online selling, so what to do with tills and EPOS and Stripe and Etsy and Amazon sales. Now, what I would say is that is more of a sort of technical bookkeeping thing, and Jackie Mount has created some information on the website about online selling. But what I will do, I'll get in touch with her and see what she thinks would be the best bit of advice there. But it may well be a case of just calling us up and speaking to somebody in the technical support line, because that's what it's there for. So that's unlimited to you as a member. So you can call us up and ask about all of those things. And they are the types of things that, potentially do change on the regular. So it might be worth getting the kind of latest information. And you can actually speak to Jackie directly as well, if you want to. And she's also wondering about professional clearance when you take over someone's client. Well, actually there is, and actually I missed this out, didn't I, when I was talking through the website. But there is a template that you can use that is on the website, and it's in the running a practice section. And there's a little sub menu on the right-hand side called templates and downloads. So you can get a template for getting that professional clearance. You can also get a template letter of engagement and a template cope if you want to set another member up to look after your clients in the event of your not being able to for illness or ill health. So definitely have a look at that. I think that'd be very useful.
If you are taking a client over from another bookkeeper or an accountant, a letter of clearance is the professional letter that you should use. I would also ask the questions a bit cheeky about why are you moving, because you might want to know why they're moving in terms of whether that is a client that you want to take on. But if you take on a client for another bookkeeper or another accountant, the ICB, as Amy has just said, will provide a letter of clearance, and that should be sent to the practitioner giving over the client.
Fantastic. I didn't really explain what it was, did I? But yes, and any sort of templates that we've got on our site are free for you to download, but they're not going to be specific to your practice, obviously. So do feel free to customize, well, you're recommended really to customize those to your needs and to those of your clients. And again, you can always contact the legal support line. It's unlimited again. So you can ask them, just double check any of your thinking and make sure that everything's above board. They're not going to go as far as writing you your own document, but they will be good advice for you. We've also, we've covered how much to charge, and there's been some discussion here from Lorraine and Stephen on what whether you need to think about capital gains tax if you're using your house as an office, which Stephen and I both think you don't need to worry about capital gains tax implication.
Depends how you record it. What you have to ensure is, again, if you're singling out a room as an office, the advice I give to my clients, and in fact the advice I use, is that my office at home is not purely used for business. It actually has a stayover facility. So as long as you can prove that the room you're using has duality, then you won't have a capital gains tax liability. You know, I am very fortunate to have a room that I can use. But if you're working from a kitchen table or a dining room table, then you won't have a capex problem.
I think as well, Paula, isn't it right that if you built an office in the garden, you claimed capital allowances on it, then you would be likely to have capital gains tax liability if you then sold your property.
Please don't let's get into building offices in the garden, because that's very technical, and I've had to deal with it a number of times with client. But yes, you are quite right, Lucy.
So yes, if you're going to build, so if you've got capital expenditure building yourself an office, very good point. Sorry about the buzzing. I've got WhatsApp on my laptop. I can't for the life of me find it, but that's what it is. Buzzing like that. Angela Forsyth, hello. Angela Forsyth is one of our members in the Isle of Man. She is saying that she actually wants to start an Isle of Man branch.
Whoa.
And is having some trouble. She's tried for 18 months, she says. Well, I think really we need to put you in touch with Paula. We have, I think, 3 members on the Isle of Man. So that may be where you're having the issue.
It's okay. Amy, I'll take the journey and go and speak at the
Angela.
Well, it's
Paula,
next to it's next to Liverpool, where my son is.
I've spoken with Angela, so I can pass on her details to you.
Fabulous.
If that's all right, Angela, I better check that you're happy to pass
It's all right,
on.
Paula. No. No. It would be great to come and meet with you. So yeah,
let's set it up. I just, you know, obviously there's whoop, she says. Okay, so there we go. So hopefully we can get it working. But as I say, I think you're sort of one of 3 qualified members in the Isle of Man, but there will be more students. So sorry, actually 3 practices. You probably know them all, but yeah, let's get it going. Great news. And Vanessa Hale says, can I use this as CPD? This is indeed CPD. That's the abbreviation for continuing professional development, which you are required to maintain as part of your membership. And we usually say webinars are one unstructured point. So anything that's, you know, a bit more verifiable, like if there was a test at the end of it, so maybe we could consider that for next time, is what we call unstructured. So it's effectively worth half a point towards your annual target. But yes, please do log it on your CPD portal. And Tina Marshall, yes, says she's seen a lot of sheds being converted. It's apparently the new trend, isn't it? The garden office. See, there's another beep for my WhatsApp. I'm sorry about that.
So I converted my shed into a gym. My husband put the shed in thinking he was going to get a man cave, and it ended up being full of weights that we're trying to use to get fit. Stephen Dirlson saying he doesn't understand why people feel Hotmail or Gmail accounts are unprofessional. It might just be my take on it. You know, I'll take that on the chin. But okay, certainly if I have an inquiry with that, I do a little bit more Google searching on them. I just think proper businesses, it's so easy to set up a at your business name, but you know, I know Lucy put her hand up, but, you know, I will accept that I'm, you know, I might just be a bit old fashioned, but personally, I think having an account in the business name, it just looks a bit more professional, but might just be me.
Yes, perhaps in the eyes of the beholder on that one. So fantastic. Unless anybody's got any more questions, I think it's probably a good idea for us to wrap up, seeing as it's almost 3:30. I think we've talked quite a lot. And you know, highly recommend building a shed. Just go for it. Why not? Yes.
As long as you account for it properly. Build a shed, account for it properly.
Yes. Exactly. But yes, well, good luck with it. And, you know, if you've got a lovely home office, of course, post it in the New Practices Facebook group. And no matter what, like I said, I really do want to nudge you to step outside of your comfort zone and post in that Facebook group if you're happy to do so. And tell us who you are, what you're up to, what your challenges are, any questions you have. You will be joining a fair few people who were at our most recent practice webinar. And just to say, we've had last year in 2021 alone, we had 298 new practices start. And since October, which is when we did our last webinar, we've had 74. So there's loads of you. Go meet each other and, you know, post your LinkedIn profile. You could even ask for advice on your LinkedIn profile. If you've got an elevator pitch on your profile anywhere, just say, you know, just want to sense check this. Does it make sense? No strangers there. So please do that. And please, if somebody posts a picture of their garden shed, it will just make my day. So thank you ever so much, Gillian and Angela and Lorraine and Stephen and Tina and Vanessa and everybody who's posted us a question. And more than that, very big thank you to Paula and Lucy. That was super useful. And just remember that you can always call us. We pride ourselves on having someone at the end of the phone to pick up your call. And we do love speaking to you because you're why we're here. So good luck. Reach for the stars and we will help you get there. Have a lovely afternoon, everybody.
And I'm very much looking forward to coming to the Isle of Man.